I rise today to talk about a very important issue for the economies of both my state and the entire nation, and that's the future of the wind power industry in the United States. And a future that is at risk, I might add, if Congress doesn't extend the production tax credit for wind. Such inaction jeopardizes U.S. jobs and threatens what's a real bright spot for American manufacturing. Such inaction is not acceptable to the people of my home state of Colorado, nor, I believe, to Americans more broadly. And many of us know, I think all of my colleagues know, that we've seen the wind industry grow by leaps and bounds over the last few years. According to the Wind Energy Industry Association, the industry has attracted an average of over $15 billion annually from 2001 to 2011 in private investment in our wind sector here in the United States. In 2009, that figure was $20 billion when 10,000 megawatts, the highest annual total to date of wind, were installed. 75,000 hardworking Americans find good-paying jobs in the wind sector, and there are 6,000 of those jobs in Colorado. So, Mr. President, I'm not unbiased on this, but when you look around the country, nobody should be unbiased. Those jobs also have a positive ripple effect in all of these communities where they're based. And just over the last 4 years, wind represented 35% of all new power capacity in our country, second only to natural gas. And with technological advances, wind turbines are now generating 30% more electricity per turbine, which means you're producing more energy while driving down costs. And this also means that all Americans, from the Great Plains to the Eastern Shores, have access to more affordable, reliable, and secure clean energy. That's a win-win. And it's little wonder that our constituents are demanding that we extend the wind production tax credit. And I want to just say that this industry and the good news that's coming out of it couldn't have come at a better time for our manufacturing base, which has really seen relentlessly tough times over the last few years. The wind industry is cutting against the grain, and it's creating manufacturing jobs at a time when many companies are outsourcing jobs. And this chart here gives you a great picture of what's been happening all over the country. You can see in every sector of the country we have wind manufacturing jobs. At the end of last year, the wind industry included almost 500 manufacturing facilities that employ 30,000 people spanning 43 states. And we have wind projects in a vast majority of states, 38 out of 50. And last year alone, over 100 different wind projects were installed, ranging from a single turbine to over 4,000 megawatt capacity plants. Back in 2005, that's just 7 years ago, Mr. President, we had only 5 wind turbine manufacturers. But with steady and consistent growth and government policy support and certainty, the number of domestic and international manufacturers here in our country grew to 23 at the end of 2011. And Mr. President, that's a key factor, the certainty that's been provided that will help this industry continue to grow jobs. And at a time when our economy is still coming back after the 2008 recession, and we're facing stiff competition from other countries, the wind industry is a dynamic example for how we can grow manufacturing jobs and investment in our country. Now, when I start out, Mr. President, I mentioned the wind production tax credits, known as the PTC. It's been a key factor in this growth. It's been central to this young industry, and it's still a very young industry, its success here in America by helping make wind energy, it's still being commercialized, more economical. However, this critical tax credit expires at the end of this year. And unless we act now in this Congress to extend the wind production tax credit, we risk losing this industry as well as the jobs, investment, and the manufacturing base that it creates to our competitors in China, in Europe, and other countries. And that's the last thing we need and our economy needs. So I've come to the floor to urge Congress to keep our country an open marketplace for innovative energy industries and for new investments. The United States is on the cutting edge of renewable energy technologies and on a path to further secure energy independence. And we have to maintain that momentum by passing an extension of the wind production tax credit. And Mr. President, in fact, it's so important, this extension, that I'm planning to come to the Senate floor every morning until we get our act together and extend the PTC, not just for Colorado, but for every state across our country. And I plan to talk about the importance of wind energy in a different state every time I come to the floor. I look forward to talking about your great state, the first state of Delaware. And I hear every day from Coloradans who are astonished, they're incredulous that we haven't acted to extend what's a common sense tax credit. We need to be reminded that American jobs are at stake if we fail to act. Simply put, if we don't extend the PTC as soon as possible, the wind industry will shrink significantly in 2013. Estimates are that we could lose almost half of the wind-supported jobs, down from 78,000 in 2012 to 41,000 in 2013. And if we fail to extend the tax credit, total wind investment is projected to drop by nearly 2/3, from $15.5 billion in 2012 to $5.5 billion in 2013. That's simply unacceptable. Now, Mr. President, luckily, I'm not alone in this effort. There's a strong bipartisan support in the Senate, in this chamber, for the extension of the tax credit. And Mr. President, yes, this is one of those occasions where we're talking about legislation supported by members of both parties. Senators Grassley, the Republican senator from Iowa, along with myself and 7 other Democrats and Republicans, introduced a bill earlier this year to extend the tax credit. And Senator Jerry Moran, the Republican senator from Kansas, and I led 12 members from across the country and both sides of the aisle in urging our Senate leadership to work with us to extend the PTC as soon as possible. Yet we haven't seen that happen, Mr. President. Instead of addressing what's a bipartisan proposal that's been a proven job creator, Congress has been caught up in partisan fights. Let's do what Americans are demanding that we do. Let's work together to create jobs and strengthen our economy, as well as our energy security. Let's pass the PTC as soon as possible, ASAP. So I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to talk about specifically the importance of the PTC to my home state of Colorado. We are home to thousands of renewable energy jobs, including high-paying manufacturing ones. But that would change literally overnight if the PTC is not extended. Mr. President, for the good of our economy, I ask you and all of my colleagues from both sides of the aisle, work with me. Let's work together to get the PTC extended.